Have you ever taken a step back and considered what does good singing even sound like? And I mean, we all intuitively know it when we hear it. You hear those singers, you listen to their voice and you're like, damn, they're good. But what about for those of us who are on the journey of learning how to sing? How do we know if we actually sound good? Maybe we think we sound good, but we actually sound bad. And so wouldn't it be useful if we created an objective way to measure if our singing actually sounds good? And so today I want to introduce you to this idea of singing into the pocket. And this is something that's become a staple for myself and students that I teach all over the world. And it's become a really good way for us to assess our own singing and go, do I actually even sound good here? I'm going to break down this idea of singing into the pocket into 3 very simple areas that you can think about. And then also at the end, I'll show you exactly how you can apply it to your own singing practice and into your own sessions. Real quick before we dive in, for those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Ivan. I'm a voice teacher who works with students from all around the world. And really, on this channel, on this podcast, on this show, my goal is to make learning how to sing as simple and as easy as possible. So if that is up your lane, consider subscribing. And if you want to take things further, check out some of the links in the description on ways to work with me. And if you want to inspire our next episode, let me know what you want me to talk about down in the comment section below. Okay, so let's talk about what good singing even is like. Now, first of all, when I'm talking about good sounding singing, I'm not talking strictly about having good vocal technique. And in fact, I need to tackle a big misconception here. Technique is really important. I spend a lot of time teaching this to my students, but having great, amazing technique does not always equal to good aesthetic singing. And I'm sure you can relate to this. I'm sure you've heard plenty of people who, they don't have the best technique in the world, but when you listen to them sing, you just think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And then on the other hand, you've got these singers who are very good technically, but they don't seem to get anything going for you. Technique, really what it does is it allows you to get to these sounds and colors easier because your voice is just much more coordinated. So let's talk about what good singing even is like. When I was recording vocals earlier in my singing journey, and my technique was largely there, I could do a lot of things quite easily. Whenever I'd listen back to my recordings, I would just feel like something was missing. Something didn't sound that great, and to some extent, I still sounded as if I didn't really have that great of a voice. And I often wondered, what is going on? Why is this happening to me? I'd worked on my technique for so long. I've taken so many voice lessons. I could hit a lot of the notes quite easily now. Surely I would sound good, but I didn't. Why was there this gap? And so the lesson that I learned here is learning to sound good in a song involves you singing into the pocket. Basically, there is a small pocket or a small space that if you did this with your voice, you would sound good in a song. But let's get a bit more specific here. What exactly is singing into the pocket? Really, there's only 3 things we need to achieve to sing into the pocket. Now, let's break them down one by one. The first one here is pitch. And this one is obvious, right? This is probably obvious for you all, which means if you're not hitting the right notes, or even if you're slightly off, you're going to sound a bit funny. You're going to sound like you're not quite getting there. And this is why pitch is really important. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is whilst pitch might seem really basic or really obvious, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There is a sense of musicality, which means you have to be able to hear the music, be able to recognize the patterns in music, be able to memorize those melodies, right, really, really well, accurately. But then also from a technical side, be able to reproduce it with your voice. This is where technique can really, really help because, if you're straining, if your vocal folds aren't controlled that well, you don't have that ease of control, you're probably going to lose your pitch quite easily. And so this is why pitch is going to be the first thing that you need to tackle to sing into the pocket. Now, how do we develop pitch? I'm not going to do a deep dive on this because I've actually covered this before. So check out episode 118. But largely speaking, you just want to tackle the 2 sides of pitch. The musicality side, being able to hear it, being able to memorize the melodies, and then also being able to reproduce it accurately with your voice, making sure it's easy for you to do that as well. Now, the second piece of singing into the pocket is timing. And this one might be as obvious as pitch, but I find that a lot of singers will neglect this. Basically, when you're singing through a song, are you singing the notes at the right time? Because music has a sense of rhythm to it. This is what gives it that feeling of flow, gives it that feeling of storytelling. And so if you're singing notes at the wrong time, once again, this can put you out of the pocket. Now, how do we develop a sense of timing? I'm actually going to be filming a deep dive on the topic of rhythm for next week. So make sure to hit subscribe so you get access to that episode as well next Thursday or next Friday. But a simple exercise you can try to do already is try to get a feel or sense of the beat of a song. So, when you're listening to a song, see if you can clap or tap to the rhythm of it and find something nice and steady. If you can do that, that's going to start to build a bit of that awareness on that sense of flow or that sense of rhythm that all music will have. Now, the last piece of the puzzle, and I'm going to be spending a bit more time here, is this idea of singing with the appropriate vocal colors. Now, this one is really important because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and they've asked this question specifically. Why is it that when singing teachers are singing a song, they sound bad? Like, why do singing teachers sound bad when they're singing a song? Now, the reason here I find is it's about this idea of vocal colors. You know, most singing teachers out there, they're probably able to hit most of the notes, they're singing with the right time, they're probably singing it pretty easily. But what needs to also happen is you need to sing with the right appropriate vocal colors. Singing a song that requires jazz vocals is very different to singing a song that requires classical vocals. How you hit the notes matter as well. It's not just about getting to the pitch and getting on time. What I mean by vocal colors are instances like, you know, how strong and soft are you singing as you go through the song? How are you ending those notes? Are you kind of holding them out? Are you adding a bit of vibrato? Are you adding runs? Right? All of these different things. Are you even maybe changing the way you pronounce those words? All of these are examples of vocal colors, and they just illustrate that there are so many choices you can make as a singer. And on one hand, it can feel daunting, but on the other side, it can also feel very, very exciting because all of a sudden you get this choice to really express the way that you want. Okay, so hopefully we've established now that singing into the pocket is 3 things. You need to be on pitch. Number 2, you need to be on time. And then number 3, you need to be singing with the right appropriate vocal colors. Very different in terms of vocal colors. And so, how do we actually apply this to our own singing? Let me dive into a quick example for you. So the easiest way I've found for myself and my clients to learn this idea of singing into the pocket is you want to work through a song line by line, and you can record it like I have here, or you can even just sing it over with the original music, but I highly recommend recording so you can actually listen back to it. And our goal here is to work through each line of the song and achieve the 3 areas we talked about, you know, be on pitch, be on time, and then experimenting and choosing the right vocal colors that sound good to your ears. You know, it has to kind of fit in with the music. And yes, I know it might feel tedious, you know, like you have to kind of go through the song line by line. That's a lot of work, right? But I think when you do it this way, it actually gives you the space to go into the details, to really work on it and get so tight into that pocket. So there's no way you don't sound good. Even when I'm recording my own songs, this is a song called Love Like Yours. It's something I'm looking to release real soon. Have a listen here to the pre-chorus. So this is a pre-chorus, and I feel like I'm close to singing into the pocket, right? There are still maybe little things I might tweak or change to kind of even more into the pocket. But to get here, I show you this, right? It took me over 62 takes to get there. Now, this is because this is an original song. You know, I've kind of done this from scratch. When you're doing a cover or you're kind of working through something that's already been composed, you won't have to go through as much of it. But nonetheless, as I was going through this, right, I was applying the exact same process. In fact, you know, even in some of these early takes, I was just working through pitch. I was just kind of, you know, trying to clean up the pitch, and I was trying to clean up the timing like later on. And then eventually, you know, I started to work more on the specific vocal colors. This is why I recorded specific sections again and again and again. I was just trying to find that right kind of way to sing it, that right kind of vocal color. And as I did these 62 takes, I comped them, I put them together, and that's how I got this pre-chorus. And so yes, once again, I know this might feel tedious, it might feel like there's a lot of work to do here, but I do find that it is much more effective and much more efficient than singing through that same song again and again and again, like just from top to bottom. Because what happens here is you actually become very deliberate about the way you're singing. You get into those details, you make sure they're so clean, so that when you sing through that song, that would naturally come through when you sing it one take. And so this is actually what you got to do. So you want to work through the song line by line, get the details really, really clean, and then you try to sing the song once through and notice the difference. You're going to be much tighter, you're going to be much more into that pocket, and suddenly you're going to get some compliments on your voice. People are going to be like, wow, why do you sound so good? This is the process to doing that. So team, that is a wrap. Hopefully by now, you know that to sound good aesthetically, you know, to have people feel like your voice sounds good, you need to sing into the pocket, which is basically singing on pitch on time, and then choosing the right appropriate vocal colors. If you just got those three, there's no way you won't sound good. So team, if you found value out of this episode, please share this podcast or leave a review, leave a comment. It really means the world to me and it can spread this message to more people. And remember, if you feel stuck with learning how to sing, don't feel like you have to do this by yourself. Reach out for a voice lesson with me. I help students from all around the world, or you could even check out one of my singing programs, which will give you a very step-by-step process to improving your voice. Apart from that, team, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ivan. I'm your voice teacher, and I'll see you next Thursday or Friday for our weekly episode release. Take care, team.